Darrell Woodall, member of our Dividing Board of Directors, and also a local author who's written a couple of books about different aspects of the university and the Corps of Cadets. His first one, Blue Ridge Gridiron, is a history about the North Georgia College football team. Who knew that we had a football team at North Georgia at one point? And his second book, A Cut Above, a history of the UNG Corps of Cadets. And so Darrell never actually attended North Georgia College, but he has this fascination about the military and the Corps of Cadets here. So that's why he keeps coming back and doing these great programs about the history of the Corps. And tonight, Darrell's going to talk about the ASTP and ASTRP programs at the university during World War II. So at this time, I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to Darrell.
Well, glad to see all of you here today. I hope I can do justice to everything he said. What this was, we'll get a little background here. Some of you may know some of this, but in 1940, when FDR decided that we were going to have a military draft to get us ready for he knew what was coming, World War II, it started in 1940. A lot of people don't realize that, but we had over 1 million men in the Army before World War II started. And so that meant a lot of drafting. The draft was started and people were getting nervous about it. Well, it hit all the colleges too. A lot of young men were getting drafted. They didn't have college deferments back then. You got drafted. Well, that meant the Corps of Cadets was being reduced a lot. When the war broke out, even more were taken because then they increased the number of drafts. A lot of young men went to enlist in the military. So what happened was the Army was in dire need of certain specialties. Certain MOSs needed to keep the Army running. And the Army would eventually get up to 10 million men during World War II. And that's a lot of folks to train and to prepare for war. Well, in 1942, when things were just really starting to roll, they come up with this program, and it was called the ASTP, Army Specialized Training Program. Not the second, I'll talk about the second one in due course. But the ASTP meant that enlisted men could be chosen on their abilities to be this program. They would be sent to college to get certain training, specialized training. 227 colleges in this country were doing this program by 1943. Well, in the spring of 1943, it came to our college over here, and it started with these enlisted men coming in here who were, not most of them didn't have any college training. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the specialties that were required to get into this program. These were pretty bright fellas, but yet they were enlisted men, so they weren't like they were going to be officers or anything. In the course of this program, North Georgia College helped train 466 ASTP cadets. And they, like I said, from spring of 43 to the spring of 44. And then, of course, the ASTRP program, which I'll talk about, it went from March 44 to 46. There were certain requirements they had to get into this program. First, they had to have completed Army basic training, which means they were already soldiers. And they were in the process of completing. Had to have scored at least 110 and later 115 on the Army General Classification Test, and that is a Stanford-Binet type IQ test. So that's a pretty high score if you think about it for these guys, if you know anything about that test. If they were under 22 years of age, they had to have completed certain high school level math courses and if they're older than 22 years of age, they had to have completed a minimum of 1 year of college and to have a substantial background in one or more languages or a year of mathematics, physics, or biology. That's a lot to ask for a young kid. I mean, it's going to serve. So, and the course that they had over here at the college, these were 12-week sessions, which meant that they would be 3-month quarters. You used to be on the quarter system. So they would go for probably at least 2 quarters and maybe more, depending on how much they had to do. Well, there were certain categories the Army was looking for. They wanted to be trained these guys in engineering, foreign language, medicine, veterinarian, or dentistry. Well, obviously, North Georgia doesn't have those last 5. But what they did was they considered engineering courses more than what you would just call strictly engineering courses. At North Georgia College, they were taught a total of 3 terms. They would have 3 terms or one academic year. And by the way, I will mention here too, the colleges, the Army asked the colleges in this country to go to 4 quarters, no more summer vacation. They had a hunch this was going to happen. They're going to start training people. So they would go, but they had to go at least 3 academic quarters. They were to be have courses in English, history, geography, geology, mathematics, and engineering drawing. So that's what was taught over here. Now these were the basic phase of courses. Now, if you got real good at it and they had to need you for something more advanced, they had advanced courses which would be taught at other colleges and universities besides ours, such as foreign languages, marine transportation, civil engineering, chemical engineering, mechanical engineering, and sanitary engineering. So you see, the Army needed a whole bunch of stuff. So these fellows would wind up going to those other colleges later. They didn't have those last few. It hit this college, but they did have it other places, probably like UGA or different places. And the thing about this program only lasted a year. See, the Army said, we need these guys bad, so they started training them for a whole year. Then suddenly decided, well, we don't need that. So let me show you though before I get into this. That's what the Army does. Some pictures here to kind of give you some background. I got ahead of myself here, but
Point at me.
Point at the.
parent you here.
Well, the sensor's over there.
I thought you said it's there it is. All right.
Excuse me, then. Can I just, same thing happened, yes.
I'm a technical guy. So.
No, you're not. Oh, okay, yeah, you can do it.
It's like you
What's the part?
Okay. All right. To show you some of the other colleges that I found that this is Ball State Teachers College, which is now just Ball State in Indiana.
The other button.
Maybe that was in front. This is Indiana University. These are all enlisted soldiers. They're not regular college students. Princeton University, even the Ivy League got in on it. They've got their cadets. Washington and Jefferson College, which I believe is in Indiana. Does anyone know? I'm not sure exactly. And Brigham Young University. So it was all across the country. It was not, a particular thing. Well, the ASTP program had this patch. All the young men who went over here had to wear this patch on their uniforms. And of course, the scholarly lamp, and then the sword, which military involvement. The Army started putting out these. They want these guys to join these things. So 50 questions and answers on Army Specialized Training Program. This is from the University of Texas. And when it got here, these boys are our guys. And if you recognize the building in the background over there on the other side of the administration building, these are actually some of the ASTP cadets from North Georgia in 1944. Now, when these guys finished their course, they got a certificate showing this is their diploma, so to speak. And this is from a guy who went to the University of Georgia, but I found this when I used to work at the Veterans Museum, and this fellow was killed in action, but he was one of the guys who graduated from that course. So he did his full 3 quarters of the program. And his was the basic phase engineering. You see it there on that first second typed line. So that was in March of 1944. Well, that's just before they ended the program. They ended it right around that time. Now, after they ended this thing for a year, they didn't have the colleges going crazy because the Army is giving the colleges money for training all these guys. And as I mentioned previously, there were only 93 cadets left by the time this program started, and they couldn't keep their certification up as a military college with just 93 cadets. They had 200 or 300 before that. So the Army says, don't worry, we've got another program, and we're going to replace it with this one. And this is called the Army Specialized Training Reserve Program. You see all the happy young men smiling. Fellas, look at this, man. Did you hear about that? I got in easy. All right. Well, it didn't turn out to be that way. But these guys, what the difference was, what happens to all those guys that were on the program, the ASTP program, the Army needed casualties were happening real big. By 1944, they needed replacements. So they ended their program and says, we did it, but we got to do something to keep getting these people in. So these are high school guys. All right. Now, some of you may know this or recall, but in 1944, high school went to 11th grade. and you were 17 when you graduated. Well, that's that's a year below the draft age. So the Army says, tell you what, if you fellas join in like this now, we'll send you to college for a year, and then when you turn 18, we'll just grab your butt out of there, and you're going to be in the Army. How about that? And they said, well, gosh, that'd be good. At least we could get some collegiate training and stuff like that. So they started doing this for them, and these guys were almost like regular cadets. They had actually had it better than ASTP guys because they weren't really officially Army yet, but they were in a way because they signed the contract. You still put your name in that paper, man. They got you. So at 17 years old, the ASTP program came very fun. This came out of the yearbook in 1944, talking about the ASTRP. And I know that's hard to read, but all they're doing is talking about the involvement of these guys on campus. And these fellows were able to do a lot of things that I didn't think they could do. They let them play on the football team. They had a company football teams. If any of you read my book about the college football program, they had company teams. They started in 1945. Well, in 1945, guess what's happened? The war's almost over, but they're still there in fall of 1945, just as the war is ending, so they can still get to do those things. But they were also involved in a lot of other things, like this is the ASTRP Sergeants Club, and these guys had their own little ranks, just like the regular cadets did. And so this was out of the yearbook as well. I didn't do it wrong that time, did I?
No.
It didn't like me. All right, well, this is the next one anyway. What happened?
Which one is that? The
You're out of the presentation.
no, I'll bring you right back. Hold on.
Okay.
Ta-da.
Oh, he's good.
Nope, too far.
No,
You gotta go some more. Nope. Nope. Next one. Okay, right. Let's see if we can help me go. All right, here's the Sergeant's Club, right? They also had their own glee club. Okay, they got to do all kinds of stuff, just like a regular student would do. And this was a good deal for these guys. I mean, they had it made pretty well unless they really got 18, of course, and got drafted. But there was a good program going on here at this college for these people. This worked out so well for the college. The college is still getting the money that they were getting, so they're going because they couldn't. Don't forget the Depression just ended in the 1930s, and so here now they took all their cadets out. They're not getting any money, so the AST program ends, and they're going like, now what do we do? Well, this paid off really well, and the college actually had a surplus of $50,000 left over when the war ended.
Wow.
$50,000 now in 1946 I don't know what that'd be in 2022 dollars, but you're probably talking millions of dollars, I would think. So it really helped. It's actually saved the college. A lot of people don't realize this. This really got them through a difficult time. And so in 1946, the last of these fellows are gone. They finally ended the program June 1st, 1946. They had gone through all this stuff, and so the college now is back to having the amount of money. Make sure I didn't miss one. No, I didn't. But that the money that was made by the college really helped them survive until, and then 1946. I'm babbling a little bit here, but 1946. Guess who's coming to college now? Does anybody venture a guess who's coming to college?
Veterans.
That's right, and there's more big bucks. Yeah, because the government's giving the college $500 for every veteran that attends college. And by that time, but these guys laid the groundwork for that. They really, the college, if anybody came out of the war in good shape, they did. So, but that's basically what these two programs were about. And I thought I would talk to you a little bit about that. Does anyone have any questions about it? If I haven't covered something, perhaps? Yes, Jay.
You have some follow through to see what happened to those people.
3 of them were killed in action that were here, and of the 466 cadets that were here, the ASTP guys. I don't have anything yet about where each guy went because there were 466 of them. So no.
But I was thinking that you might have run across some of those. When I was doing research on the CCCs, I discovered that there's a fellow, he's probably passed away now, lived up on Camp Wasita Road, who was a CB and had been moved from island to island around in the Pacific. And he came home and set up a construction company.
Okay.
So this was a follow through. That's the kind of thing I was going to say. These guys who got trained here, what did they do with that after the military to at least come.
Well, that'd be quite a job, because a lot of them were not even from Georgia. They're all over the place. And I don't know if the Army kept any records about what happened to them. A lot of them wound up as enlisted men. They didn't know, and none of them became officers that I know of. They said very, very few got to be officers, but I'm sure that there's probably some way to find that out. That takes some extensive research, I would think, just to find that out.
Well, I just wondered if you had happened to run across any of that kind of stuff.
No, I haven't yet. Now, who knows? Next year I may come back and say, "Hey, guess what?" But yeah. So yes, ma'am.
You know, the veterans list that is printed in the paper
Mm.
almost every year,
Mhm.
where we put out the crosses and
Oh,
everything.
yes.
Could that list be, compared to the list of graduates from North Georgia's ASTP?
They might. And you know what I need to do is go over to the university and see if they kept any records on the ASTP.
Oh,
I haven't run across any yet. When I was doing the football program, I found out that they had a team in place, but that's all I did. The trail ended right there, so I'd have to do some further looking into that. But that's probably a possibility. It's a good idea. It sure is a good idea.
Yeah, Darrell, have you tied any of those specialties that they were teaching with a given MOS? For example, I mean, like, you had the chemical engineering
Mhm.
specialty. What MOS would that tie to, or some of the other engineering would tie to a given MOS?
I can only take an educated guess. I would think that the chemical engineer, they had a chemical core,
True,
the Army
yeah,
did. And,
although it
and
wasn't real active like World War I, but.
no, not worrying about mustard gas and all that stuff. But they did have, they made smoke screens and stuff,
Yeah.
and they did stuff like that. Probably other MOSs like the ordnance corps, munitions and stuff. You need an understanding of chemistry and different things like that. I'm just guessing here.
Yeah, I can't imagine that you'd need to know too much about chemistry to deal with ordnance, again, because you already had civilian engineers designing all that stuff.
True. Well, and also in the mathematics, for instance, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, what are you gonna use for that? And
Oh.
engineering drawing, so what are they doing? Probably working with the Corps of Engineers, I guess,
Yeah.
doing stuff like that. And the geology and geography, I mean, that could be, Army made maps all the time. And don't forget, they were on so many different fronts in World War II, there probably was a great need for some of these specialties.
Sure. Yeah.
But I don't know directly. I'd have to find out more about it.
Kind of interesting to find out, yeah.
It would be this is just a start. I mean, I'm sure there's a whole,
Well, you've done a lot already.
well, to quote a nice term, is a whole gold mine here, you know. Things that are still to be discovered
Yeah.
about this program. And the records section over here, I'm trying to dig more into that. Like I said, when I did the football book, I went to the mineral department and they almost didn't have anything. Finally, one guy said, "Wait, I found this book. It's been stuck back here for a long time, and here it is." Going like, gold mine, and that was a big gold mine. But I need to go over to the military department. Now, I don't think they have anything because, well, they might. The ROTC program started back in 1916, so they might have something.
Mhm.
But they haven't offered it to me. And I was over there talking to them about these last two books, so I figured they don't know either. You know, the administration department might have some. I found that a lot of this stuff that it's been over the course of years, it gets buried and stuff, and whether it got microfilmed and then process got, put on a computer, I don't know. So, but that's another good question. I don't know what, when I saw engineering courses, I said, I know North Georgia has no engineering department.
Yeah.
Over here, but apparently we're teaching mechanical drawing of some sort, so.
Different.
So of the skills that these guys learn, like specific engineering type skills, kind of skills would they be able to carry forward into their civilian lives?
Well, that's another good question. Don't forget they got a year of college, so some of them it probably led them into other things. If a kid came up here and decided to major in some kind of science, and then he was in the ASTRP program, and the Army required him to take certain things, I'm sure he would focus in on those things. And the one thing I learned as a veteran, when I got out of the Army, I didn't know what the heck I wanted to do. I was just like, what am I going to do? But I went on the GI Bill to college, and it took me a couple of years, like every other kid, to decide what I really was going to do. Even then I wasn't sure I wanted to do. So I don't know. That's a good question. Yes.
$50,000 in 1945 is worth
I mean,
$820,000. So
oh, is it?
820, over 800,000.
Okay, almost $1 million then, that they had to
could say
save
it that way.
us after the whole thing was over with. Yeah, and if you think about it too, it's hard to imagine all this took place right over here. It's just, every time, I'm just in wonderment of this place. I love this place. I didn't go to school here, but I enjoy it as much as I did. I go here as an audit student and I learn more stuff every time I go into a classroom. But then it makes me, that's what inspired me to do this. I was taking ROTC courses over here. And now that y'all give me food for thought, I think I'm gonna go back over there and bug them some more. ASTP records. What?
So you took ROTC courses here?
Yeah, I went over there just to see how the military trains for officers, train their officers. When I was at Georgia State, and I went 1 year of their ROTC program. It can't compare this in any shape or form. This place is outstanding. So I wanted to find out. So they allowed me to do it. I had to ask them, they asked me a lot of questions. I said, no, I'm not a terrorist. I'm not here to. And one guy said, you gonna write a book? And I said, no, because I didn't know I was.
Oh.
I said, no. And it was about, that was first year in 2016. I didn't know I was gonna write a football book until after I already started. But I got so inspired by it. And later on, about 3 or 4 years going over there, I said, I'm gonna write a book about you guys. And so they gave me support then.
So what was the nature of the course that you took?
Let's see. A lot of this was non-contract courses, and there would be stuff like national policy, how the military is involved in national policy. I thought it was very fascinating myself. Sometimes we talk about, I'm trying to remember all those things that we did. Military history in general. I know one of the first courses I took, I had to talk about one of my favorite American Revolution. Being an audit student, so I could say no if I didn't want to do it. But I was stupid and said yes, and so I wound up I did one on Calvin's battlefield in Revolution.
I'm sorry, on what?
Calvin's battlefield.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, I did a thing about that and had to get up and talk about it to these young guys, and that was kind of fun. And then the instructor put me on the spot and says, Mr. Woodall here is in Vietnam. Tell us about it. Going,
Oh, boy.
I just want to kind of just listen, but it was fun. They were great. Well, they're just fantastic. I was trying to think, can't recall right now, but I did art. No, it's about 3 years of it. I did it. So I finally ran out of courses because they didn't have anything else. They wouldn't let me do the contract courses. So I said, okay. But I took a lot of history courses over there and took archaeology. Well, place offers so much.
It does.
So
How did they take your book, the military guys over there?
how'd they take it?
Yeah, how'd they like it?
They seemed to like it.
Did they?
They gave me a book, well, the Corps of Cadets, and North Georgia Corps of Cadets Association gave me when they had their big thing in April, I think it is, or whatever. Anyway, I went over there for a book signing, and they had I was on one of those tables, and they're all standing around going like, and so I sold quite a few of them there. They seemed to like it. I gave all the people that helped me with the book over there a complimentary copy, and it seemed to be well received. So
Great.
I guess they liked it. I mean,
Congratulations.
thank you. It was fun to do. It's just fun though. And I took one course, a military course where it was just all cadets in there. And that was a lot of fun because I learned a lot about how these kids think about their college and their army careers and this and that. And I got to learn about what we got hope. There's plenty of good, fine young people that are still going to protect this country. So that was a great thing. Intelligent too. These are some of the brightest college kids I have ever seen. They're focused. I think most of them. Some aren't. Most of them. Anybody? Yes.
When they came out of this program, I know they're enlisted, but did they get any rank promotion from going to that? Or, I mean, when they finished, what were their rank?
That's a very good question. Most of them made NCO, non-commissioned officer, some corporal, sergeant, because it was a feather in the cap. That's a good question. Exactly right. I'm glad you said that. Yeah, I know some of them became sergeants and stuff like that. They just from talking about different things, but they went in. Most of them were all privates though. When they went in, they just and then when they got here, of course, they appointed them as training NCOs and stuff like that. I mean, I know I was in the Army and AIT. That's our training program. You get to be a corporal or a sergeant, just temporarily. All I do is get you out of KP, but and all the responsibilities of it. We won't get into that though. But anyway, there's they did get something that was an incentive to them. They want to be officers, but what I understand, what I read, very few of them got selected for officers because the training wasn't long enough, and it just really wasn't. They had officers candidate school, OCS, In fact, my father-in-law went through the OCS, he became an ordnance officer. Julie's father, he was a high school graduate, went in the Army, and he applied for it and got it. But that's, you're talking about, they call them 90-day wonders, but it was a little bit longer than that, 3 months. But their training was so much different than the enlisted men's thing. So yeah, most of them got ranked.
The test that you were talking about, is that the same as the ASVAB, or is that something different?
I'm not really sure. This Stanford Binet, am I saying it right? Yeah. Stanford Binet type IQ test is all that I found that it was called. I don't know if it's similar to another one or not. Anybody else?
Did you say the ROTC began in 1916?
If I remember correctly, it was 1916 that Congress passed the law that started the ROTC program. Now North Georgia already had a program, obviously, going here, but it was not run by the United States government. They went by Army regulations and stuff and everything, but when they did the ROTC, they started paying for the guys' uniforms and doing stuff they weren't doing before 1916.
Okay, well, so what was so this program came along over 2 decades later. What were there different missions and objectives for these programs that you know of between ROTC versus ASTP?
ASTP. Yeah, I know all their acronyms. Well, like I said, the ASTP was all enlisted men.
Okay.
Whereas the other programs were to train officers. The ROTC was there to train reserve officers.
Got it.
And they, and it's funny you should mention that because during the Spanish-American War, they had this, before ROTC program started at North Georgia College, you could get a regular Army lieutenant's commission. Okay, so because all the Army instructors were regular Army people, even though they weren't in ROTC. Then they had another one called the Philippine Constabulary. Because in the Spanish-American War, we got the Philippines, and they didn't have enough regular Army officers, so you could get commissioned as a second lieutenant, make $1,100, I think it is, a year, which is pretty good in 1898. Or you can get $1,700, and if you get $1,100, if you decide they don't pick you for that, you could always apply for a Philippine Constabulary lieutenancy. So that was kind of interesting, I thought. But nevertheless, they were still ranked; they were officer ranked. So, anybody else? Okay, well, I'll give you a little bit.
One last question.
Yes, sir.
This is kind of personal, you don't have to answer. What was your MOS?
I was a 74 Charlie 20, which was a data analyst.
Okay.
And it was like all Army things. Speaking of Army things, these guys, they thought they were going to be doing some engineering. Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. I did do it data analyzing, but when I got over to Nam, I decided they'd make me a truck driver, and I got to be a Jeep driver, and I got to be a courier, and I got to be a guard on a bunker line. I got to go out as a provisional entryman. Lots of fun. That's fun. That's an Army fun. That man there can tell you all about it. So, but anyway, yeah, that was my official MOS. Military occupational skill. It's a nice way of saying we're going to make you this or that. Army does a good job with that. Really, they take a lot of grief about it, but I found my time in the Army was really a rewarding time years. I mean, I wouldn't want to go to Nam again, but I enjoyed the discipline and the training.
It's a very maturing experience.
Some of the finest people I ever met were in the Army. So I was telling we were talking about Army things. Chris and I talk about Army all the time. This guy says, when I was in Nam, they have a DEROS date, which is a date eligible to return overseas. So you're a veteran, aren't you? So you know all this stuff. Well, they said, okay, your DEROS date is January 16th, 1972. Well, I've already been there a year almost now, so I got down in November. I was like, I wish I could go home for Christmas. Well, lo and behold, President Nixon says, I'm pulling out 40,000 troops next year, and if you want to apply for a drop on the tour, you can. So I went down there, and I got my sergeant first class who was in charge of me. He says, Woodall, I want you to apply for this thing. You can do this. I said, they're not going to let me out. He said, they're not. So I did it, and the Army came back and they approved it, but they gave me a 26-day drop, which means my new DEROS date is December 26th. I'm going like, wow. Now I don't get to go home for Christmas. And so I was low and I'm walking around like this, and Sergeant first class says, what's the matter, Woody? He called me Woody. I said, well, I said, Sarge, I said, I did what you said and I got the drop. But I'm gonna miss it by one day. And he just grinned. He says, you don't know the Army well enough, son. He says, I'm the NCO in charge of the transportation. And I say, you can go home within 5 days, your MOF, go pack your bag. See him again on my biggest day, the cake. Probably not here anymore. The kind of people like that, I met a lot of people like that, good people.
Yeah.
Service. So. Anybody else? Okay. I didn't even tell war stories.
Well, thanks. So if anyone has, like to watch it, just want to talk to the author, you can do an author signature.